Hey FishTube, how's it going? Today we're going to talk about medicine. So I'm going to show you all the medicines I use in my fish room. This is after about 30 years of using almost every medicine out there. And what I found is there's medicines that I buy that I just don't use because other ones take the place of it. So this is what I've narrowed down as far as my medicine chest. Now I do carry it in this red bag. So this is my medicine bag. And even if you don't need it today, it's a good video to keep for a reference down the road, just in case something comes up. Now I know I marked it as a Discus medications, but it actually works on all fish. I keep all kinds of fish, plecos and barbs and rainbow fish, rams. So this is the bag I use and I go to. Now, if you use something else, that is awesome. If it works for you, stick with it. I tell everybody that. Don't go on the internet and use what people say if you're comfortable with something else. But if you're trying to find out what's going on, you know, as far as medications and what you think you should use or advice you're getting, this is just my advice and this is just my medicines that I use. I do not throw money away on medicines anymore. I've kind of narrowed it down to this bag. And actually I've helped other people in their tanks too. So I'm not a doctor, I'm not a vet or a wet vet. It's just something that I have found that I have needed to do myself, because when I first started in this hobby, I would call veterinarians or fish stores and I just couldn't get the answers I needed. So I went on a quest to find the best medicines and to try stuff, you know, try different medicines that worked and then some didn't. Some knocked out biological filters, which is always detrimental when you're trying to, you know, get fish healthy, because you need that water quality to stay good, especially. So this is one of my quick tips. If you see something going wrong in a tank, add an air stone, dechlorinator a little bit, and change water. These three things are the first things I do no matter what. I don't check the water, I just go to this instantly because I want to make sure that the tank is healthy and strong before I start medicating or even deciding what I need to medicate. Okay, so I'm gonna go through this bag. I'm gonna kind of talk to you about where I get them and who I get them from, because there's different concentrations online. Now some of this stuff I have actually gotten online and tried it and it worked. I used other products. I went to these products, I tried them, and I was more successful using these products, and I just felt like I got a better result. So my first one I'm going to talk about is salt. So here's the thing, you have to be able to use salt in your tanks. Now my recommendation for salt is you know, sea salt or aquarium sea salt. I just find that the minerals in it are beneficial to freshwater fish. Now you have to understand that even to get water to brackish on a 90-gallon tank, you'd have to throw almost a gallon of salt in to just get it brackish and then get it to the salt water or the sea. Okay, so here's my recommendations on salt. Excellent for external, fungus, bacteria, anything, fins that are damaged. And what you'll notice is when you put the salt in at this concentrations is they'll start producing slime, and so that gives a protection on the fish. So here's the thing, you have to be really careful, and I'm just going to give this disclaimer now on catfish. On the lowest dose I've been okay. On the highest dose, I've actually had problems with catfish. So 1 tablespoon to 3 gallons. That is my mixture for Discus, or basically all fish that I'm okay. Now, if you have planted tanks, of course, you're gonna have to decide, either you're gonna pull those plants out, you're gonna pull those fish out into a bare bottom tank. You need to be willing to give up the plants or decide I want the plants or the fish. I know that's sometimes detrimental, and some people are into their plants, and I get that. I'm not a plant person. I love the fish. So for me, it's not even an issue. But I have multiple tanks, so I can pull a fish out at any time and treat that fish in a bare bottom. And that's what I would recommend, is have a tank set up, well, not set up, because if you set up a quarantine tank, it'll become an aquarium. So understand that. You need to have that tank put aside. Maybe have the biological filter going somewhere with some guppies or something. But you don't want to have that tank set up, because it will become an aquarium. Trust me, I've done it hundreds of times. So salt, great, 1 to 3. Now, I will watch the fish. If I see that it's not improving much, I'll go 1 tablespoon. Now, tablespoon to 2 gallons. And then 1 tablespoon to 1 gallon. Now, I do use that with other medications. So just so you understand that a salt treatment is great for external, and I've gotten rid of some pretty major fungus and bacteria issues from fish coming in. ICX. So ICX is a product that actually, Corey from Aquarium Co-op, I used to use a product called Rid Ick, I think it was, or there was an organic one I tried, didn't work. But once I tried this one, I was pretty impressed with it, and I do use that. Now, with the fungal bacteria problem I had with my discus, I used this product as directed, and I used the salt, and that cured that fish in about 4 or 5 days. And I could literally do water changes and see that fish getting better and better and better. Luckily, he was eating the whole time, so it was, you know, that kept his nutrition and his immune system strong. Levamisole. So this is kind of the one I've been going to lately over the Metronidazole, because I just love this because it's a 2-day process. So, and it's very concentrated. So it is an animal dewormer. So, and even with the Levamisole, I use salt at those mixtures with my discus. So it's a 1/4 teaspoon to 100 gallons. Now, this was purchased from Greg Sage Select Aquatics. I liked his product that he sent. I don't think he charges enough, but he charged it at a pretty reasonable price and shipped it quickly. Now, I don't know if he's still selling it. So Levamisole, I know you can get it in packages now. I think Fritz has it. What I have found with that is I just think that these are more pure products and not so much additives. Now, I don't know about the Levamisole, but I know the Metronidazole, and we'll talk about that, is pretty, I think it has salt in it or something, but and when you get the true Metro, it's like a yellow where the other stuff is a white, so it tells me that they're mixing it with something. So Levamisole, I really love this. Greg Sage Select Aquatics, check his website. His website is awesome. It has a ton of information on it. It's kind of like a university. When you read his website, it goes in deep. So check that out if that's something you're interested in. If not, you can get the Fritz. Prazipro. So Prazipro I like because I like the liquid form. Now, a lot of the Fritz and API, and they have it already mixed in a dry form. The reason I like the liquid form is it dissolves quickly and it's very effective. I don't have many problems with tapeworms, but it's pretty gentle on the fish, and I think it gets rid of flukes. I'm not sure. Yeah, they say flukes, and I'm not too sure about the flukes. But the liquid form to me is just better, and I've never had any issues with biological filter going out or any issues with fish. So I really like the Prazipro liquid. It's something that I carry all the time. I think its main job is tapeworm, and I actually had a discus come in, I mean, I'm talking years I haven't had tapeworm in my room, and I brought one in and it had tapeworm. I was pretty excited, and the Prazipro knocked it out instantly. Metronidazole, I think that's how you say it. I call it Metro. This is also from Jack Watley, Gay Posada Discus in Florida. I love this product because it has that yellow tint to it, and I just feel like it's a little more effective. Now, I think the Discus these days are becoming immune, or I should say, sorry, the parasite in the Discus, the nematode, is actually getting immune to the Metro. Because what I found is over the years, I used to be able to treat it once, take a small break and treat it again, and that was 7-7-7. Now I'm finding I have to do 7-7-10. So 7 days treating, 7 days off, and then 10 days on top. And that's the only way I can be successful now. Now that's a lot of work, and that's a lot of dedication. So it's nice to treat entire tanks. It's hard to treat one fish with this Metro, and that's why I like the Levamisole, because I just feel like it just gets in there, and it's so little, and it's 1-2 days, and it's done. Now, it really does depend on what you're going for as far as what needs to be killed. If the Discus isn't eating and stuff, the Metro's a pretty good one. But if you're seeing the long feces, which is the same thing, I just tend to go to the Levamisole now. It just, for me, it does cloud the tank a little, so don't freak out about that. But I just like the Metro, I like, but it's kind of my second go-to now. Metronidazole. Gape, Posada, Jack Watley Discus, and you can get that online. I think the 100 grams was 40 bucks. And I made a video, my Discus is sick, now what? And that's when I made the food. So here's the thing I like to do now. I like to use the Levamisole first in the water, 2 days. Give them 7 days off. If they're eating real well, then I go to my food mixture in that video, and I do the Focus and the Metro C-Chem. Now this tends to be, I think, a little better. I probably could use the Metro from Gabe, but I tend to go to this because it's proven to me to work. But you still have to do the extended. So what I do with this when I feed it is I try to separate the fish, or I make sure all the fish is eating, and I disperse it evenly through the tank, because you're not going to get exact medications this way. So what I do is just make sure all the fish are eating. If they're not, I separate them, and I just do them with my partitions. Potassium permanganate. This stuff is potent. Now, I used to be a little afraid of this because I just didn't understand it, but I think it's amazing, okay? But it knocks out biological filter. So when I do this, I take the sponge filter out. I know it could have disease, but I would rather take that out and then put an air stone in. I put tons of air in. And then you can watch this on actually one of Gabe's videos too. He shows how he uses the PP, and it's potassium permanganate. And it goes, I've had this jar for 3 years, and it's almost full. So I mean, it's just very, very minute, and he gives the breakdown on it. So it's 1 gram per 100 gallons. So, you know, you can go down from there. But what's nice about it is it deactivates. So it's purple when you put it in, and when it turns like a brown muddy, you can put in hydrogen peroxide and it neutralizes it out. And then change water. I would change water personally. So potassium permanganate, it's a weapon. Gill flukes. This is what gets rid of gill flukes, in my opinion. It kind of cleans out tanks too. If you have any issues with a tank. Now, you can use this with a sponge filter and knock that sponge filter out, and it's clean. So that's one thing. If you have a tank that got really sick, it might be the best way to go. So potassium permanganate, I love this. Methylene blue. This is for eggs. Knocks out biological filters. Rams. So one thing I've been doing a ton of reading, and that's what I do, is I read, and I read the university papers and stuff like that. Yep, total nerd. Love to read them. I just sit there and I nerd out, and people a lot smarter than me, I want to get that information and just have that knowledge. So one thing they say is it changes DNA structures at the molecular level. So one thing I do with this is I use it on eggs, but as soon as those eggs hatch, I get it out. I clean the water out instantly. it just prevents fungus on eggs. And once that fungus gets on a couple eggs, it kind of spreads, and you'll see it turns like a milk over the eggs. So this really helps. Now peat is supposed to do it too, but I don't think peat is as effective, but it is still an antifungal. So methylene blue, I don't use it for fish, I use it for eggs. So, but it's in my medicine bag because I just want to know that it's all together. New product I've been looking at, and this one's expensive, so I'm not sure about it, and I'm not sure if I'm going to use it, but I've just done a ton of research, and it's called this Absolute Wormer. I think this is big in India. We're not as regulated in the pet trade now. I believe it's coming. So that's why I kind of really try to work with that salt as much as possible, because I think the regulations are coming, especially with this COVID and horse dewormers and stuff like that. I just feel like the government's gonna take charge, and you know, it's about money as far as the pharmaceuticals and stuff like that. They don't want that stuff getting out. So they really don't care about the aquarium trade. And to get a wet vet is impossible. You have to be a huge aquarium or own $10,000 goldfish, or koi, but I've seen koi. I think the largest amount paid for a koi was 1.8 million. You can double check me on that, but I think that's the highest one. And I mean, 10,000, 50,000, 100,000 is not unheard of for koi. So those wet vets are going with that because the money is already invested and they get paid very well to take care of those fish. Just something personal, because I searched for vets, and actually in California, towards the end of my time in California, I was having veterinarians call me because they were having questions from people calling them about fish and stuff like that. And so I was kind of helping them a little bit, but I always made the caveat that I'm not a vet or I'm not a doctor, because I'm not, okay? This is just something that I have personally wanted to do because it's important for me when I invest, you know, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 into a fish room. I want that to be healthy. So my first line of defense is quarantining. It would be awesome if I could have a separate room, but that's just not realistic. So I'm very careful to have my quarantines on the bottom so stuff can't splash into them. I'm very careful to use separate buckets, separate hoses, separate everything. I'm very careful. I'm even kind of off the edge where after I touch a tank, I go to the sink and I fill it up with hot water and I dip my hands in the sink and let them sit there a minute and then dry them off. I don't use soaps or anything like that. Now I guess you could, and that would be even cleaner, but and then what I'll do after I use a hose in a tank, and one day I'll show it how I have a system where each tank has a PEX. So the PEX pipes. So I cut those to length and then I just pop them onto, so that PEX is the only thing touching the water. But I'm even so bad that when I pull that hose off, I take it to the sink and I drop it in the really hot water. And I try to get the water about 120 degrees. Now, is that perfect? Is that biosecurity? Not really. It just makes me feel better, and I don't have huge problems with disease. But let's get back to this. So it's called Cloverleaf Absolute Wormer, and it's flubendazole. I believe that's it. Flubendazole, I believe that's it. There's another one, fenbendazole, but I think this is flubendazole. So because I'm having such success with the Levamisole, you know, I just kind of wanted this to try if I have a case that I want to try it on. I just like to have things that I've heard good things about and have it on site to try. A lot of these diseases, believe it or not, are already in your tank. There's bacterias in your tank. They're in there. So what causes these fish to get sick is usually stress. Now, my personal belief is the number one thing you can do besides water changes, so water changes, clean water, I mean, but for me, it's not even the top anymore. It used to be, I used to think water. I've kind of backed off of that a little bit because even water coming in can be, you know, tainted and all that stuff. So what I have found is the number one thing to keep fish healthy is temperatures. Now, I heat my room, so my room is usually between 80 and 82 degrees, and if I close it up for a day, it'll get to like 85 degrees, but with Discus, that's okay. but I try to keep it about that 80 degrees, and then I heat the Discus tanks up 3 or 4 degrees, 4 or 5 degrees actually, because that 82 is the high and the 80 is the low. So I want it always, so what happens is the heaters aren't kicking on. I mean, they probably kick on 5 minutes an hour, I'm guessing, if even that. I don't think it's even that. I think once they set, because the tanks acts as radiators, and that radiator holds heat. So even though it dissipates off, because the room is so comparable, I think that it just offsets it. And I don't see the heaters kick on very much. So the number one thing I have to say is, and this is gonna sound strange because I've tried the black digital heaters, I've tried the clear readable, I can't read them. The long clear ones that have the temperature and the red line. I can't read those anymore. I took my glasses on, but I even found those aren't as accurate. This right here, Walmart. I love this thing, man. I had this thing for almost a year now, and so here's the thing. You're gonna see a lot of them. They have to have this calibration button on them to calibrate. This thing has lost a ½ degree in accuracy in over a year. So, and I could recalibrate it, but a ½ degree to me is fine.